Name and address for the record, please.
Captain Holly, 43 Sherman Avenue. Some information has come to light since the finalization of the agenda. This is the officer who has been going to people's homes who signed the petition for the special town meeting and asking them who asked them to sign. He called me and he asked me to name the people who were collecting signatures. And I think that given this, what happened yesterday, that I would ask you to table this until, this can be fully vetted, because it seems to be a lack of judgment and a lack of understanding of civil rights and the Constitution. So many of us here have concerns that this officer would be going around to people who signed a petition and, intimidating them like that. So, thank you.
Yes, just name and record, please, Ms. Lombardi.
Yes, thank you very much. Rita Lombardi, 8 Kings Road. I would just like to say that the Officer Lehan indicated to Kathleen Howley that there was a forgery. Somebody complained that there was a forgery. Their signature was forged on the petition that had well over 100 extra signatures. And we would just like to ask the board, I would just like to ask the board that will we prosecute if there is a forgery or if there is a false claim, complaint that there was a forgery, would we prosecute to the full extent of the law? So if there is a forgery or if there is someone who was scared into saying that they didn't sign, will we prosecute to the full extent of the law?
So that's a question for the police department.
Police Department.
But you
Town
oversee the police department.
I understand that, but the police, I don't tell the police department how to police. They're conducting an investigation.
Okay. So
Officer
would you
Lehan is a
support?
detective.
Yes, I know.
And so as part of the investigation, he's doing his job.
Yes.
And so whatever comes of that will come of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. McCourt?
The matter that was discussed 4 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, came to light for myself today. And just in brief discussions that I have had with our town administrator, the Officer Lehan, when he was assigned to this task to investigate a criminal complaint that was filed at the police department. That as far as the knowledge that we know about this. So Officer Lehan's been on the force for quite a long, I think he was just doing his job. I don't think, from my understanding, is that he just contacted a couple of people in this investigation. But I don't know the full knowledge of that investigation, and I believe that we can follow up on this as, we determine, it just came to light. So we really don't know, but I don't think we should be punishing Officer Lehan in any which way by doing his job that he was charged to do. So I would support this temporary appointment, but it has no reflection on what has happened to me, to the people that he has interviewed. It's his job. He was assigned this case. It's his job to do the case. If he said, no, I'm not going to do the case, then he's got another problem. So I can't, I wouldn't find fault in that officer at this time. So I couldn't recommend holding off this appointment because of that. At this time, I have no fault in front of me for Mr. Lehan doing his job that he was assigned to do. And that's my answer to that, to this appointment. That's my answer.
I would just add one thing, that, he was very insistent that I give him the names of the people who were gathering the signatures because he wanted to interrogate them. This shows an appalling lack of knowledge about the United States Constitution, about civil rights. It's just appalling, an appalling lack of judgment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
just,
Mr. Chair.
just to update the board on
Yes.
recent developments. So a complainant did go to the police department and file a complaint alleging that signatures were not theirs. I spoke with the police chief this afternoon about the status of the investigation, and she has recommended that that investigation be sent up to the Attorney General's office so that the local police don't have involvement in it because of the potential conflict with town meeting, special town meeting. So I believe that she was calling this afternoon to see if the AG would be interested in taking that case.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Duty. Yes, miss.
Hi, Jennifer O'Donnell, 16 Walnut Knolls. Would that have any implication on the special town meeting that's scheduled in November?
No,
No, nothing,
Okay.
not at all.
Thank you.
So if I could follow up,
yes, sir.
Mr. Duty, so who contacts the Attorney General to,
The police chief,
the police chief is going to contact the Attorney to basically
to ask them,
start, to
to
see
ask
if
them
they'll
if they'd
take
be,
that
if they would take the
investigation over to
investigation.
that. So basically it eliminates the Canton Police from that investigation and it goes to the Attorney General's office. So I think that's a fair,
Makes
and
sense.
reasonable thing to do in this, in the case of you're discontented with the interview, but it just takes the Canton Police out of it in the situation at hand.
I think the damage has been done to democracy in Canton if people are now afraid that they're going to get a phone call from a police officer if they sign a petition. The damage is done to democracy in Canton.
Bailey said, once again, if a complaint is filed by anybody in this room or a Canton resident to the Canton Police, they have to act on that complaint if it's a formal complaint. It has to be acted on, I believe. Am I right?
Yep, you are correct.
So, I mean, I think Mr. Lehan was doing his job.
Anything else? Any other comments? Mr.
So I made the motion, but I'll make it again. I move that the board appoint Police Prosecutor Officer Edward Lehan.
Second.
This is a temporary
Temporary, yep,
appointment.
until they,
They find it full-time.
yep,
Because the
they're
prosecuting
short-staffed.
officer is retiring.
Yep.
Has retired. So we need a prosecuting officer at the courthouse. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Thank you.
Hours last week, and one of the issues that we discussed was the fact that citizens who have been coming and speaking frequently at the select board meetings have received anonymous threatening letters with regard to their appearing here. And I was very disappointed and angry to hear about that. And we discussed this, and I had asked if at this select board meeting, I was hoping you would make a statement saying that you were not in favor of bullying of any kind, whether they're citizens attending these meetings or any other citizen activity in town. And I'm disappointed that there was not, any mention of that this evening.
Mr. White.
James White, former resident, 47 Will Drive. So I'm going to read off of a letter that was sent by former resident Sean McDonough, retired DEA agent to Chief Rafferty several months ago. And these are questions regarding policies and procedures that he had to the chief for the John O'Keefe investigation. First was, what was the policy in effect when your officers were dispatched to the scene where John O'Keefe was found? Were they supposed to cease and desist their investigative actions when it was appeared John was dead? I imagine you have to pass something like this over the state police. Secondly, are your officers trained in basic crime scene management? Do they recognize the significance of preserving a crime scene? 3, did any of your detectives respond? John was not immediately pronounced dead at the scene, and there was evidence of a brutal assault. Was the Canton Police Department ever going to investigate this incident had John lived? Or is it policy to hand all major crimes over to the state police? Why were there 3 civilian females found at the scene not brought to the station immediately for questioning, or at least held until the Mass State Police or your detectives could formally interview them? Who gave the order not to search primary residence of Brian Albert? The responding officers knew that 6 hours earlier, a party was held there and that John and Karen were both invited guests. Along with Jen McCabe, why didn't your officers explore this? And who directed the off-duty supervisor to be the only Canton Police Department official to talk with Albert that morning? what was discussed and what superior a friend of the Alberts family was that superior friend of the Alberts family. 6, your officers had found John with a lot of trauma, a huge gash on the back of his head. There had to be blood everywhere. One of your officers saw fit to collect blood samples. Was the scene completely photographed? And was the blood found at the scene commensurate with the injuries found on John? If not, why didn't your officers think to look for blood inside the residence where John had been invited? Also, your officers at the time did not know John had not worn a coat that evening. Didn't it seem strange to your officers that John had no coat on? Why didn't they think to look for his coat inside the residence? And it was bitter cold. Did McCabe tell your officers he wasn't inside the house? And if so, why was she given authority to leave the investigation?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Ms. Howley. She was in line.
Yeah, that's fine.
I didn't see
that's
up
fine.
there.
I just
you-
had the rest of Sean's.
Kathleen Howley, 43 Sherman Avenue. I timed it. It's less than 3 minutes, and I'm going to be talking faster now. I was going to talk about bond ratings. As I hope you know, they're the town's credit score. This past January, we got a AAA rating, the best possible score. I'm assuming we'll be seeking another bond issuance soon, which will involve a new rating, especially as we're planning to build a new middle school. Every parent in town is interested and excited about that project, and every homeowner is as well, because schools support all of our property values. A lot has happened in Canton since January. We now have a member of the select board who doesn't pay his taxes and has a 2-decade record of being sued for not paying his bills. He just got a brand new state tax lien slapped on him last month for more than $24,000, on top of the more than a dozen state and town tax liens that date back to 2003, and we just put him in charge of the master plan. We just put him on the master planning committee. But the bond raters will be far more concerned about you 4 guys, the guys who are too afraid to speak out, to uphold ethical standards, or even to say, yeah, I think you should pay your taxes. Everyone knows you can't force Mr. Albert to resign. Everyone also knows that you have voices that you could use to speak out if you wanted to. We didn't elect a lawyer who's telling you to remain silent. The taxpayers are paying him, but we didn't elect him. The bond guys are the smartest guys on Wall Street. If we can find through several easy online searches that Mr. Albert can't be trusted handling a $146 million budget funded with tax dollars, so can they. If we get a downgrade, it could impact those middle school plans. And yes, governance, and that means you guys, the CEOs of the town, is a key reason for downgrading bonds. I spent 15 years covering Wall Street as a journalist for Bloomberg News on the bond team. I mostly covered MBS, not munis, but the principles are the same. But something happened yesterday that's more important than bonds. I got a call from a police officer, and I spoke a little bit about this, and I'll cut this part short, who wanted to know the names of people in town who collected signatures for the special town meeting. We needed 200 signatures, and we got 334, I believe it was, to talk about critical issues facing our town that can't wait till next year. The police officer wanted names of the people who collected signatures so he could interrogate them. It was the most un-American question I have ever been asked. And no, I did not provide those names. By the way, most of the people collecting signatures have family members in law enforcement. And then the police officer went to homes of people who had signed the petition to ask him, who asked you to sign, et cetera, et cetera. Many of us who pay the bills for the police department believe that we need an independent audit of the Canton Police, and given the extreme conflicts of interest, which I'm happy to quantify for anybody who's interested, family and financial conflicts of interest on the board, if the board appoints it, it is not an independent audit of the Canton Police. People who are doing a good job would welcome that attention so we can all see how they shine. It's very clear that the Canton Police Department will do anything, including violating our civil rights, to avoid it and exposing the town to a civil rights lawsuit, which you guys just gave us further exposure by approving him, giving him a
Thank you.
promotion.
Thank you. Ms. Lombardi.
So I would just like to say, we've been appearing before you for months. We've been trying to work productively with the path forward. The tensions are high in this town. We all know it. And the fact that the board continues not to respond and answer questions is what is causing this to escalate. And it's not what we want. For months, we have been asking for you to bring in a crisis management team. Instead, you sat there in silence. We have asked you to coordinate a meeting with the chief of police. You sat there in silence. So we had to request a special town meeting to get that. When you guys got tired of listening to us, public comments were suspended. Even though several of us met with some of you individually and pleaded with you not to do it because it would escalate matters, you still put a pause on public comments. That wasn't when people showed up at the October 3rd meeting, they were showing up in support of free speech. We did not invite them. They came because they were supporting us in free speech. And I just want to say, I am one of the 4 people, as you know, because the letter was forwarded to you, that received the intimidating letter in the mail. And I'm not going to give that letter any credence. It was written by a few people, clearly, and it had lies in it. And some of the things that were in there, and I want you to know, is that they said to us, you have chosen to insert yourself into an unimaginable situation. Why would any of you want to do this is beyond us. There are just a few facts people eagerly shared, and these were the lies that they told about us and our family. There's a section, I'm not even going to give that any credence because it's made up. Imagine a deep dive. This is to quiet us. Imagine a deep dive of family, friends, extended families, neighbors, and coworkers. We will make sure they know this is curiosity of you. Fact or fiction, it sticks forever on the internet. If you would like a seat on the board, please run for it. Don't try to overthrow an elected official. Shame on you for not showing up after you invited your mob and crazy men. We did not invite anybody. They came on their own. The children and families involved get no break and no choice. You had made your choice to enjoy, you had your choice to enjoy your quiet lives. But Rita made it clear she declared war in your name. I never declared war. And then if you think, the people of Canton think you are heroes, think again. The majority is disgusted. People are reaching out to see what they can do to help. People are offering money, campaign help, legal assistance, and group meetings are underway. It's interesting that this author of this letter said the person is offering them campaign help. Can't imagine who would that be.
Ms. Lombardi, that's 3 minutes, miss.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lombardi.
I'll
Ms.
finish the rest of it.
So,
Ms. Schuman,
Mr. Chair, we have time for one more.
two more. Yeah, one more.
Is it 2 more?
I think so. Peter Henderson, maybe? No?
Okay,
Ms. Schuman,
sorry.
My name is Tara Schuman and I live in Canton.
According to mine.
I signed the petition for the special town meeting. After I heard about it, I waited weeks, mostly because I was scared to put my name on that piece of paper. It was actually that fear that finally motivated me to do it. I shouldn't be afraid to participate in my local government. I've never done anything without my name attached, so I want to explain why I signed the petition. The amazing thing about democracy is that a balance of power allows for checks and balances. These checks and balances preserve our freedoms and our protection under the law. Our country was founded on the idea that an unchecked power leads to mismanagement, corruption, and oppression. So we hold each other accountable. With the petition for the special town meeting, over 300 voters, who I consider our legislative branch, decided to ask questions of the other 2 branches, namely the select board and our law enforcement. Taxpaying citizens followed procedures and requested to talk. I'm shocked and saddened to hear that peacefully and properly requesting this path in a local democracy has led to further intimidation. I wasn't going to come here tonight. 3 weeks ago, I received the same letter I didn't know was going to be mentioned by others, but I received that letter in the mail, and it accused me, among other painful and untrue things, of trying to overthrow an elected official and wage a, quote, war. Since I received that letter, the word war has taken on a whole new meaning. But please know that I love this country because we don't overthrow our leaders and we don't wage war on each other over town elections. Instead, we hold our elected leaders accountable by asking questions. And when we don't think those answers are enough, we do things like sign petitions for town meetings. But the accusations and threats by an anonymous sender that threatened to hurt me, my family, and people we know made me swear to people I love that I was going to step back from this microphone even when it opened up again. But I find myself here because I still believe in the democratic process and in talking through issues face to face, even when we're shaking and really, really scared, rather than threatening people behind closed doors. I've never done anything anonymously. Not a single post, not a single comment. I've come here and I've talked to you face to face and I've asked you to talk to me, and I appreciate when you have. I signed that petition because I think that our town needs to come together and talk face to face. We need to ask questions and we need to listen to the answers, and we have to hold our leaders, ourselves, and each other accountable for our actions. I
Thank you.
expect that the meeting will be extremely challenging, and that's why I came. I don't take democracy for granted. In fact, there's one thing that letter said to me that I have to state because I agreed with it. It ended with, "You have a decision to make. Can't wait to hear what would be more important than your own families." Peaceful living is a privilege.
Ms. Schuman, you have 3 minutes is up, miss.
And I completely agree with that.
Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. I run the meeting. I will control it. No, 3 minutes is 3 minutes. No.
I have
Well,
one
finish it
more.
up.
I have one more sentence.
I
I'm
said the
actually-
ground rules, and we're gonna have an orderly meeting here. So if anyone yells, I will ask you to leave. You understand?
Mr. Conley,
Crisis. This is a crisis.
I actually need to say this to my own children who live in this town, because they're going to be horrified that I'm up here. And the last sentence, when it said, "Can't wait to hear what would be more important than your families," I want my family to know that I am here tonight because I want them to live in a place where they are not.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion's been made and seconded. To adjourn the meeting at 8:43. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Thank you and have a good evening.